After more than 2 years, a landlord in Washington state was finally able to remove non-paying tenants from his $2 million house after the county gave them $90,000 in rental assistance. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Alright, so I have an interesting update to a video that I did a little while back about a landlord in Washington state who was having trouble evicting these non-paying tenants from his $2 million house. Now, don't think that a $2 million house in Washington state is the same as one that would be like here in Omaha, Nebraska. Here, it would be a mansion, you know, just absolutely humongous, 6,000 to 10,000 square feet, swimming pool, you know, all of the amenities. But in Washington state, you know, it's a much more expensive place. So a $2 million house might be more of a suburban style house. It's still going to be nice, but it's certainly not going to be the same thing that it would be here. So I told you the story about a landlord up there who was having trouble getting these tenants up out of the house, and all the trouble and all of the garbage that he was having to go through because of their extremely strong tenant protections. Now, in my mind, a person shouldn't be given eviction protections if we're talking about luxury housing or very, very expensive housing. And giving these people rental assistance, now that to me seems like a scam. Just an absolute scam. So the fact that when I read that they gave the tenant $90,000 worth of rental assistance so they could remain in this $2 million house, well, you know what? That's ridiculous, okay? Taxpayer funds could be used to help people who are actually in need to stay in much, much less expensive places instead of trying to keep people in expensive housing. You know, just give me a break. Give me an absolute break. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. So on the topic of that rental assistance, now normally, you know, I read about they have income limitations. I guess if a very wealthy person lost their job, they would meet the income threshold. But what do you think would correct issues like this? What would stop somebody like, let's say you were, you know, making millions and millions of dollars a year and living in a $30 million mansion from begging for rental assistance if you lost your income? Like, yo, you're an NBA player and you got let go from the team. Do you deserve rental assistance? I don't think so, okay? And in this sort of situation, like in this article, this is seemingly a similar situation, but I don't know. I don't know. 2 years. 2 years is what this landlord took to get these people up out of this property. So I think that's ridiculous in and of itself, but there's a lot of crazy, stupid situations going on with this whole story that make it one of the worst examples of why I say don't waste your time investing in places like Washington State. But anyway, let me get into the article and tell you what it says. This article is coming from DayaTVUSA.com, and it says, Indian American landlord wins a 2-year battle to evict tenants who owed thousands in rent. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. After a protracted legal battle spanning nearly 2 years, tenants Sang and Eugene Kim have been evicted from a Bellevue rental property. The eviction follows multiple legal proceedings initiated by landlord Jaskaran Singh, who alleged that the Kims had failed to pay rent since moving into the $2 million home in the summer of 2022. Singh's efforts to reclaim his property were delayed, partly due to a backlog in eviction cases within King County courts. The King County Bar Association's Housing Justice Project provided legal assistance to the Kims, utilizing taxpayer funds to cover nearly $90,000 in back rent, which allowed the tenants to remain in the residence during the legal proceedings. So here we have a situation, right? And from the very beginning, these tenants were apparently scam artists, because the landlord in this article is stating that, hey, they didn't pay rent since they moved in. Now, I don't know if this could have been caught by tenant screening. I don't know exactly how these tenants ended up, you know, getting together with this landlord to rent the property, or if the landlord probably had a property manager. But if the property manager didn't do proper screening, whatever the case was, right, these people apparently had malicious intentions, and that is what led them to being up in this property. And even worse is the fact that they were able to scam taxpayers into paying the rent. Now, I do believe that the landlord deserved to be compensated, but, you know, this is one of those lose-lose situations where okay, the landlord is getting paid from the taxpayer money, and I don't like that either. I think that's ridiculous in and of itself. What would have been better would to say, okay, at the very beginning, after that first month where they didn't pay, they get evicted. They're just gone. And that way the taxpayer isn't on the hook for, the landlord. Like, I do think that because the laws are written the way they are, it is the county's fault that these people got to stay so long. So does the county need to pay the landlord? Yes, but it wouldn't be an issue if the county didn't force the landlord to house these people for free. So, while I wanted I think the landlord should be paid by the tenant, of course. I don't think that it's right that the taxpayers were on the hook for that bill instead of the tenant, okay? Singh's efforts to reclaim... Oh, I'm sorry, I already read that. Despite court orders mandating their departure, the Kims overstayed the stipulated deadline. They reportedly left the property in disarray upon vacating, necessitating additional cleanup and repairs. This situation underscores the challenges landlords face when dealing with tenants who exploit legal protections, leading to the prolonged disputes and financial strain. The case has drawn significant attention, highlighting the complexities inherent in tenant-landlord relationships and the potential for system exploitation. Singh has since become an advocate for reform, even running for the Washington State Senate last year to address issues related to tenant laws and court backlogs. And it does highlight that there are complexities in the whole landlord-tenant relationship, but the issue isn't the relationship between landlords and tenants. It isn't. And I think that's kind of misleading. I think they're trying to sort of play, an impartial side in this article. But what this really highlights is the issues where there's too much government overreach, when there are too many complexities put onto landlords in terms of running their business and operating their business, and the tendency by the courts, by the whole system, to believe that the tenant is an innocent victim and would never take advantage of the situation. Okay? That is idiocy. It is absolute idiocy. And these scam artists, they came in there and they took advantage of the landlord, they took advantage of the government, and they got to live for free for 2 years in a $2 million house. Okay? That's the end result. And do you think they care? Do you think they're gonna ever pay the landlord back 1 penny of what they owe? Absolutely not. Okay, what they're going to do is they're going to move on to the next landlord who maybe doesn't have the best screening procedures, doesn't know that they are scam artists, and they're going to live for free on that landlord's back as well. And the city, the state, the county, they're all going to back the poor innocent tenant up. Well, you know what? These people deserve jail. They deserve to go to jail for fraud. They deserve prison time, okay? They are absolutely thieves. And in my opinion, that's exactly what I do to them. But what do you think, okay? Do you agree with me? Do you believe that these tenants deserve prison time? Do you think that the county should compensate the landlord for the lost rent, since the county is forcing the landlord to house them? I hate putting taxpayers on hook for that much money. The easiest solution to this would be to allow the landlord to evict as quickly as possible, and that way these scam artists would have no ground to stand on. They would get maybe live in the house for a month, maybe a couple months at best. But no, in Washington State they got to stay for 2 years, and the taxpayers were on the hook. Anyway, put a comment in the comment section down below.